Sahana vavatu Sahanau bhunaktu Saha viryam karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Okay, so we are in Manah Shodhanam, and last week we saw verses 3 and 4. Okay, so I'll just recap a little bit so that we're all on the same page. What it said here, we're studying about the purity of the mind. In verse 3, it says, Yavan malanakshiyante manaso raga rupakaha tavanna tattva jignasa jayate manushe hridi. So last week, we were talking about this desire for truth. And when I say truth, I mean the desire for the self. And the self means the desire for happiness, for bliss. This desire for truth, for the self, for permanent bliss, when does this arise in a seeker? This arises after a seeker has gone through these 3 desires. So we saw last time that 3 desires pull us, and it's as though our mind is just occupied by that we are not able to look at anything else. The first desire that pulls us is wealth. So when we finish college, we just want to figure out how to make money, how to have a stable lifestyle, how to secure ourselves in an apartment. We just want stability, we want security, and that's the main thing on our minds. It's very hard for something else to enter. And once we're in that stage, after that, then the desire for a family, relationships, that starts coming. And so that takes our mind away. And then we start to have a family, we start to have relationships. And once that desire is fulfilled, then again another desire comes very strongly, that desire to do something good for society. The desire for name and fame. Now we want to be recognized, we want to be appreciated, we want to be known, we want to do something good for society. And so these 3 desires come to us at different points in our life. In Sanskrit, they are, first is Vitteshana, then Putreshana, then Lokeshana. And these desires aren't bad. By all means, the scriptures aren't saying don't desire these things. They're fine. It's fine because we all have to go through it. But what the scriptures are saying is, when our minds are occupied by these desires, then it becomes a little hard to desire for the self, to desire for the ultimate truth, because the mind is wanting something else. When these desires start to calm down in the mind, when we have achieved them, when we have gone through them, when we have grown through them also, then this desire for truth becomes intense. And that desire is called tattva jignasa. So we can't ever say, why isn't this person coming to spirituality? I've told this person so many times about all of these talks or all of these things, but this person is not coming because their mind is not there yet. And so everyone comes to spirituality at the right place, at the right time, when they are ready for it. And the day that quest, that desire for truth intensifies, that is the day that a seeker is born. And when that seeker is born, hold that desire for truth, because that desire will set us free. So in verse 3, until and unless we go through those desires in life and we grow through them, until and unless that happens, then only that desire for truth will really become ripe in our hearts. So the idea is to start cultivating this desire for truth. Let's say I don't have it. I don't want to know about it. Start cultivating it. And as we come to satsang, slowly that desire intensifies. Then the fourth verse, we saw that by some chance we get it. We have that desire for truth. Maybe because of our past karmas. Maybe we're drawn to the spiritual path. Sometimes this knowledge comes, but not the abidance in it. So let's say because of our past karma, we are here. We are curious. We want to know ourselves. But even if we hear about ourselves, even if we hear that we have to change or transform, or just what I was speaking with the kids earlier, pick Shreyas instead of Preyas, this is very hard for us to do. So even if we hear all of these things, to firmly abide in it, that nishta is difficult. And I explain the process of nishta, the process of transformation, how we have to transform. First, it starts with a prick. If you remember, go to a place that can prick us. That yes, we have to change. Yes, we need to work on ourselves. It is not automatic. Transformation is not automatic. And it doesn't happen by reading a book or listening to a talk. We have to work on ourselves. So go to places that prick us and tell us, okay, yes, we will have to grow. We will have to evolve. We will have to become better than what we are now. And after that prick comes, then we start to practice. We start to practice and we work on ourselves. And many times we fail. Maybe we want to start a new exercise routine. And we start maybe first day, second day, the third day, completely fail. It's okay. We keep going. We keep going and going. And after practice, then progress happens. And we're able to do it more often than not. We're able to follow and stick to the path more often than not. And after some time, it becomes natural. So this is how transformation works. It takes effort. And so last week, one of the things I mentioned is to be alert of the habits that are forming in our lives. If they're good habits, no problem. But if a negative habit starts forming, be very careful. Because once that starts forming, then it becomes automatic. And it's very difficult to get rid of it. The word habit is also like that. You take out the letter H from the word habit. You take out the letter H, a bit remains. You take out the letter A, bit remains. You take out the letter B, it remains. And you take out the letter I, T remains, which means the thought still remains. So even the word habit tells us that this is something that's going to be tough. But it's okay. It's okay, we have to start somewhere. Now the question is, what if I don't work on myself? What if I live with this gap? You know, many of us live with this gap of this is where I want to be, but this is where I am. And many of us just work, we actually leave it like this. We leave it like this and we don't do anything. But if we start working on ourselves, we close this gap, right? And when we close this gap, there's an abidance. But when we leave this gap open, we always have some kind of battle in ourselves. Like, I know I should be better. I know I should do better, but why am I still failing? The sorrow of a seeker is more. It's 2 times. For somebody who's ignorant and they do something wrong, no problem. They didn't know. But if a seeker does something wrong, I knew and yet I did something wrong. The double sorrow. I did something wrong and I'm angry that I did something wrong because I should have known better. So when we do not gain this abidance, then we do not feel this, what we call Jivan Mukti. So let's read this verse number 5 now. Verse number 5, I'll read and then you can follow after me. Nishta bhavat paranandah Jivan muktasya yoginah sadhaker nanubhuyeta viphalam tarhi sadhanam. Nishta bhavat, together we'll do it. Nishta bhavat paranandah jivan muktasya yoginah sadhaker nanubhuyeta viphalam tarhi sadhanam. Nishta abhavat, if there is no abidance, paranandaha yoginaha jivan muktasya, that supreme bliss that is experienced by one who is liberated while living is not experienced by us then. Sadhakehi na anubhuyeta, it's not experienced by the seekers. Viphalam tarhi sadhanam, and it's as though all of our efforts are fruitless. Okay, so here, in the absence of this abidance, the seekers do not experience that supreme bliss enjoyed by the yogi who is liberated while living. And the seeker's practice becomes fruitless. So let's look at what this means. We can read a lot, listen to a lot of talks, speak to a lot of people, go to a lot of healing places, temples, go on pilgrimages. But if we don't work on ourselves, then nishta abhavat, we lack that abidance. See, one part of Vedanta is studying the scriptures, which we are doing. But the other part is studying one's own mind and seeing how we're able to transform. Because the joy of Vedanta is in its practice. Only when we're able to live this life, then we find joy. Otherwise, I told you, we find double sorrow. I did something wrong and I'm so upset that I did something wrong. But when we start to live it, there's an incredible amount of joy that wells up in our hearts, and it's very evident in our persona. So what is this bliss that's experienced exactly? For somebody who's able to transform, somebody who's able to abide in this knowledge, what is it that they experience? What is their life like? Why should we strive to be better? Why? Why can't we just be like we are now? Everybody's doing it, so why can't we just be like we are now? Why do we have to strive to be better? Striving to be better gears us on the way to becoming a Jivan Mukta. A Jivan Mukta is one who is liberated while living. What are the traits of this person who is liberated while living? Why should we strive for that? So in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, there is a section called Sthita Prajna Lakshana. And here it explains the characteristics of one who is liberated while living. The first one is the absence of any worldly desire because of the contentment in the self. So what happens with you and I is we are constantly in this cycle of becoming. We want to always become. I want to become a great artist. I want to become a great entrepreneur, a great lawyer. I want to become a great parent. I want to become a great sibling, a great child. I want to become a great leader, a great politician. We're always in this realm of wanting to become. And there's nothing wrong with becoming better. Don't get me wrong. But we're depending on this for our happiness. We are seeking our happiness from all of these things. A person who's liberated while living is just being. They're just being. They don't feel the need to become something else, to become or do something else, to go somewhere else. They're perfectly content with who they are. And that doesn't mean that they don't strive to become better. They strive, but their happiness doesn't depend on it. That doesn't mean that they don't go out into the world. They go, but their happiness doesn't depend on it. Whereas you and I, our happiness depends on all of these things. I'll give you a scenario so we understand this better. Let us say your child now is playing a soccer game. Now your child is a young child, very, very into soccer, very much into soccer, playing the game, and your child asks you, come play with me. Okay, so you're playing with the child. Now, in the middle of the game, and there's teams, it's with your children's friends, and your team is losing. Your team is losing terribly, terribly, terribly. Now, how would you feel? Okay, it's a soccer game, right? Your team starts winning. Your team starts winning. Now, how do you feel? Okay, it's a kid's soccer game. But your kid starts losing. Your kid is on the other team. Your kid starts losing. How would your kid feel? Very, very bummed out. Huh? And your kid is winning. How would your kid feel? Very, very excited. Very, very excited. And let us say you're playing with your kid's friends and another friend just came and your kid said, oh, mom or dad, you're out of the game now. I have someone else in the game. Completely okay with you. No problem. But if somebody told another kid, okay, now you have to go out. I want this other kid to play. They would feel completely terrible, isn't it? Now see what your attitude is playing in your kid's soccer game. It's okay if you win? Yeah. It's okay if you lose? Yeah. It's okay if they take you out of the game? Yeah. It's okay if you're in the game? Yeah. Completely fine. You're equanimous. Right? Sthita prajna. Huh? Why? Because for you, it's just a game. It's not something that's going to make you happier or contribute to your happiness. It's just a game. Right? So for you, it's okay. But for your kid, lots of ups and downs, isn't it? So a person who's liberated while living is exactly like an adult in their kid's soccer game. There's going to be some highs in life, okay. There's going to be some lows in life, okay. Sometimes we will be out of the game, sometimes we will be in the game. But that's not making them whole. That's not making them complete. Their completeness lies in something much greater. Their completeness lies in the bliss of the self. So they can keep their mind so equipoise. So they don't have such desires to engage. If it's there, fine. If it's not there, fine. And the second is they're so aware that this world is constantly changing. We cannot avoid the duality of the world. Sometimes it's going to be hot, sometimes it's going to be cold, right? Sometimes the kids are going to be so calm and peaceful. Sometimes they're going to be so annoyed. Sometimes in the house, someone's going to have a great day. Sometimes somebody's going to have a terrible day, right? Sometimes at work, things will be so smooth, so nice, so inspiring. Sometimes there will be a lot of conflict. But this is the nature of the world. The world is called dunya. Means it's based on duality. So don't think that at all points it's going to be the same. It's going to keep changing. Be it the weather, be it the people, be it the place. If we live in New York City, how can we complain of all the sounds and noise? No, we chose to live in New York City, correct? If we take the New York City subway, can we complain that there are delays or the train's running slow? No, we chose to take the subway. Huh? You and I chose to be here. So we can't complain. Because the world is full of dualities. And it will be like that. It's unavoidable. Huh? Apariharyerthe in the Bhagavad Gita it says. When I was in Mumbai, someone asked Guruji, so what happens if you realize Brahman? He said, if you realize Brahman or the truth, you can't complain. You can't complain because you realize that this is just the play of the world. So one who is liberated while living is like this. They have such contentment within themselves that they don't have so much desire to fulfill outside in the world. And they can remain equipoised because they know that there's so many ups and downs in the world. And nothing can add value to them and nothing can be lost from them. With us, it's so funny, but even inert things can add value to our lives. When somebody has a new gold necklace, what happens? You put it around your neck, you feel like you're a superstar. Correct? Automatically, I feel like, wow, I'm so great. I'm like a superstar because I have a gold necklace. And if people see it around my neck and say, wow, what a beautiful gold necklace, I feel like, wow, 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 you know, my thing is going up. Correct? People feel like this, right? But if it's a fake gold necklace, then what would we do? We would put it inside so nobody should see because we feel like this, right? In the party, everybody else is wearing a nice gold necklace, but mine is just not that great. Huh? If we have a very nice car and we're going to someone's party, no problem, you park the car in front of the house and everybody sees what kind of car you have and it makes you feel good also. Somebody said, oh, you have such a nice car. But if we have a crappy car, we will park 3-4 blocks away and then walk to the party. Because we don't want anyone to see. We don't want anyone to see that we have, you know, this really old 2004 Mazda. Like, who has that car? Right? So do you see, like, these things can make us feel good and they can make us feel terrible. If somebody says, oh, you live in this area of town, you live in Soho, wow, we feel so good. So our value, our self-worth increases because of the things we possess, because of the people we know. Oh, you know this person. Wow. Our self-worth, our value increases or decreases because of the things we have, the people we know, the organizations that we're part of, the network that we're in. Oh, you're in this group. Oh, you're not part of that group. But with one who is liberated while living, their value cannot increase or decrease because they are completely full, what we call purna. Nothing can make them fuller. Nothing can extract from their fullness. And so when a Jivan Mukta is there, you can just imagine their state. They're not complaining, they're not drained, they're not preoccupied with the material world. Their lives then become such a blessing to all because all of their time, all of their energy, all of their effort is just focused on giving. They're not interested in taking anything. And this is the path to enlightenment. When our life becomes so full, so whole, so complete, and such a blessing to others. The other day we were in Swamiji's lecture and he quoted Gurudev. Said the cultured people, they bring happiness wherever they go. And the uncultured, whenever they go. Right? So idea is that Jivan Mukta is the one who brings happiness wherever they go. Wherever they go. And what's so beautiful is that for this Jivan Mukta, for the one who's liberated while living, there's no effort. It's effortless. It's not like they're trying to be happy. How much effort do we put to look good? Then we have to dye our hair and then put makeup or whatever, dress up in a suit, do all the work out so much effort we put to look good. But when you look at them, they just look good. It's their natural expression. This is one who's liberated while living. So that's why the scriptures say, work on ourselves so that slowly we can transform and be the best that we can be and experience this bliss that our great masters have experienced and continue to do so. Now, what if I've been learning Vedanta, I've been coming to satsangs, but I'm not experiencing that? Is everything a waste? Because it says here, if we don't reach that full enlightenment, if we don't fulfill that, then it's as though, not that it's a waste, but as though life is futile. As though it's futile because, as I mentioned, we've been given everything. We've been given this human birth. We've been given some stability. All of us have some kind of stability in terms of health, in terms of finances. We've been given this environment of satsang, of seeking. And having inherited, having gained all of this, because of the grace of God, if we don't use it to pursue the highest, then it is as though our lives are futile. We're not pursuing, we're not seeking the ultimate purpose of this life. It's like if a new restaurant opened in New York City and you went there, and let us say the main thing to order is some veg paella, let us say, like a Spanish restaurant. And you went to the restaurant and you didn't order that. Then what happens? Your friends would be like, you're a waste. You're an absolute waste. You should have gone and ordered that dish. If you didn't order that dish, it's a waste. You shouldn't have gone to that restaurant. We shouldn't have come to this birth if we're not pursuing self-realization. It's a waste. Exactly like that. But he says here that no effort goes without record. It means that sometimes we feel like it's taking me time. It's not like I can speed up to enlightenment. It's taking me time. Perfectly okay. Because every effort that we have is recorded. Everything will make a deep impression on our minds. The same question is asked by Arjuna to Lord Krishna in chapter 6 of the Gita. He says, "Oh Lord Krishna, what if I'm making my way to enlightenment but I fall short? I'm not able to completely go forward. I did whatever I could, but what if a seeker falls short?" Then Bhagavan Krishna says, don't worry, because the next life, all of these samskaras, all of these impressions will carry forth. And the seeker doesn't have to start again from the beginning. They will pick up from where they left off. So it's not completely a waste. It is that every effort is recorded. So the idea is just to keep walking. Just keep walking. And everything becomes clearer. And if we have to walk slow, okay, walk slow, but don't turn back. There's only one way to go, and that is up. That is towards the higher. That is the path of Shreyas. Clear? Okay. Now let us see now the next verse. Number 6. Dridhanishthekasiddhyartham manashuddhirapekshita tadartham sadhaka sarve yatantam dridhanishchayaha दृढनिष्ठैकसिद्ध्यर्थं मनःशुद्धिरपेक्षिता तदर्थं साधकाः सर्वे yatantam dridanischayah. So what this verse says is Dridhanishta ekasiddhyartham means for gaining Dridhanishta, firm abidance, ekasiddhyartham, for gaining that alone, manashuddhihi apekshita, manashuddhi, the purity of the mind is required. Tadartham, for its sake. For what sake? The purity of mind. Sadhakaha sarve yatantam. Sadhakaha, all seekers should yatantam, should strive dridhanishchayaha, with firm resolve. For gaining firm abidance in the Supreme Self, purity of mind is required. Hence, all resolute seekers should strive to gain purity of mind. So now, verses 1 to 6 are making a case why we should strive for purity of mind. So the first reason to strive for purity of mind is because only with a pure mind can we actually arrive to the portals of this knowledge. Only with a pure mind. Second is, only with a pure mind can we absorb knowledge. Sometimes it's very, very difficult for us to absorb anything. I was sharing with you, I think, the other class that now our capacity to absorb is much less than before. So only with purity we're able to absorb this teaching. And finally, only with purity we're able to abide in this teaching. Only when we start to purify our minds, when we work on ourselves, then we're able to really see these teachings in our lives. They're able to manifest in our lives. Otherwise, nothing will happen. It's like you're making dal chawal. You're making dal and you put the ladle in the dal. The ladle is in and through the dal but cannot taste anything in the dal. So our situation becomes like that. We are in and through the knowledge, but we cannot taste anything of it because we're not manifesting it, we're not living it. So now, how do we purify? So the case is made from verses 1 to 6, we should purify the mind, right? We went through in detail what is the mind, where it is, how did it come about, all of those things we saw, and why to purify it. Now, how do we actually purify the mind? How do we work with it? So we are going to see now verse number 7. Okay? Manashuddhikaraniha sadhanani vadantiha Yajño danam tapaschaiva japastirtham vratastatha manashuddhikaraniha sadhanani vadantiha Yajño danam tapaschaiva japastirtham vratastatha. So here in this verse he says, Manashuddhikarani, those that purify the mind, iha, here, sadhanani vadanti, they prescribe these various means. So those who have purified their minds, they prescribe these means. What are they? Yajna. Yajna means selfless, dedicated service. Dhanam, charity. Tapas, austerity. Japa. Japa is repetition of a mantra or the name of Bhagavan. Tirtha, pilgrimage. Vrata, vow. Teachers prescribe many means to purify the mind, such as yajna, charity, austerity, japa, pilgrimage, and vows. So here we see 6 ways. And we're going to analyze each of the ways so it becomes very clear in our minds. There should be no doubt. The analysis will be this way. First, we will define what it is. Then we will see what are the examples of it, what is the nature of it, what is the result, what is the application, and what is the peak of that particular spiritual practice. So sadhana means spiritual practice. So these are 6 spiritual practices that are prescribed. And they're applicable, if you look at them, they're applicable to all religions, not just to Hinduism, to Sanatana Dharma. These spiritual practices are there in all religions. So we will start with tapas. How many of you have heard this word before? Tapas? Okay. So tapas, so not tapas, right? That's what paya, not tapas. Tapas. Tapas is a spiritual practice that attempts to control all of our energy. To control all of our energy. So Gurudev would describe it as any attempt at living in self-control is called tapas. And tapas comes from the Sanskrit root tap. Tap means to burn. Tap, to burn. Why? Because this practice burns all of our impurities. And also, tapas is very difficult. So when we practice it, it feels like we're burning. So to wake up early is a tapas, and it's very hard. So it's like we're burning inside. Tapas. The opposite of tap is pat. Pat means to fall. So if we don't practice tapas, we fall. Now, what are the examples of this tapas? So we want to translate in English, tapas means austerity. A direct translation. Attempts to live in self-control. The Bhagavad Gita in chapter 17 very beautifully points out austerity for the body, austerity for speech, and austerity for the mind. And these are guidelines for every seeker. So we will see. I will read these verses to you. They're very beautiful. And we will see what this austerity is. Probably we'll be able to cover body today, and then we will take up more as we progress. Those who want to refer to this comes in chapter 17 of the Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 17 details very beautifully spiritual practices and how it expounds on what they are and how to actually live them. So in verse number 14, it says, Deva Dvija Guru Pragnya Pujanam Shaucham Arjavam Brahmacharyam Ahimsa Cha Shariram Tapa Uchyate. So these are the austerities of the body. The first one, it says, Deva Dvija Guru Pragnya Pujanam, service to God or the Guru Parampara. So this dates back, from all of our traditions and customs. When students went to Gurukula to study, at that time, students used to go when they were like 6, 7, they used to go to Gurukula to study. They were given first seva, service. And this seva, the idea is to keep their body active. So they would have to go to the well and fetch water, they would have to wash the clothes, they would have to sweep and clean, they would have to cook. All of this service they rendered unto the Guru and Guru Mata, whoever was teaching, and the Guru Mata also was there. And so this kept them fit, and at the same time they were doing something that would help sustain the environment. So the first thing, which is the austerity of the body, is service. We're also funny, we like to serve outside, right? Let us serve in a soup kitchen. First clean your room, that's all. Right? First clean the room in the house. Clean the desk. Make the area holy and sacred. First do that. We have such big ideas, but then we cannot even practice such little things in our home. Huh? Our home is the sacred space of God. So serve that. And do whatever we can to serve the vision of the Guru Parampara. Use the body for service. Our body is not for display. Now there's display, everybody wants to take selfie of there. I went to this restaurant and I ate this food, click. I went and then I rode this car, click. So the body is not for display and to show everybody what we did. This is very contrary to our idea of seva. Our idea of seva is just to serve and not tell anybody. Just do. Because it's our own austerity. It's for the purity of our mind. So the first austerity of the body is service. Then shaucham. The second austerity of the body is cleanliness. To keep the body clean. To keep the body healthy. This I'm sure we all know and I hope we all do. So we don't have to elaborate too much on that. Arjavam. Arjavam means straightforwardness. Straightforwardness. How is this a austerity of the body? See, we all know that we have non-verbal language, correct? Our speech is verbal, but a lot of it is non-verbal. Non-verbal. When we live a very straight life, you can see our body language, very straight. When we do something wrong, how do we walk? Like this. Now we don't want to be seen, right? We look down, we don't want to be seen. We also rush a little bit, correct? When we did something right, we're fine. How do we walk? Straight. When we're early to Bal Vihar, how do we walk? Very calmly, gracefully, straight, arjavam. When we're late to Bal Vihar, I hope no one's seeing me, no? Right? Correct? So this comes in body austerity because it reflects our life. When we are true to ourselves, then our body language is very different. And when we're faking, it's completely different. That's why a child knows instantly. They see their parents, okay, now I can mess with my mom and dad's minds. I can. They're in that mood. But now I should not. I definitely should not. They know. So arjavam means that straightforwardness. That shows in our posture, in the way we carry ourselves. Brahmacharyam. Brahmacharyam here means moderation. Moderation, not overindulging in anything. Because what happens when we overindulge in anything? We get so drained. We get so drained that we can't do much. So brahmacharyam is to watch and be conscious of what I'm doing. Not in Bhagavad Gita chapter 6, it's called yukta. Moderation. Moderation in waking up. Moderation in sleeping. Moderation in activity. Moderation in stillness. Brahmacharya means that moderation. And ahimsa. Ahimsa here means non-violence. Why is this again in the bodily level? Remember when I was talking to the kids about ahimsa, right? Ahimsa is also how we deal with the chair, how we deal with the mic, how we deal with the door. When we slam the door, that's himsa. When we kick off our shoes, that is himsa, violence. When we roll our eyes, that is violence. So violence is not just, the one person fighting with the other. It's also how we deal with the things around us. I'm not mentioning the people part because that's pretty much obvious. But these things, how we make our bed, not like that, right? Properly. These things are the austerity of the body. Like that, there's also an austerity of speech. There's also austerity of the mind. Those we will take up next week. And we will also see why these practices are important. So now I will just summarize a little bit Then if you have questions, we can take that up. So today we saw really 5, 6 and the beginning of 7. In 5, we saw that this nishtha, this abidance is important because it gives us this bliss that a Jivan Mukta has, that liberation while living. A Jivan Mukta is somebody who is content, not running after the world. Somebody who can be completely equanimous. Somebody who's like playing a soccer game with their children. Okay if they win, okay if they lose. Okay if they're kicked out, okay if they're playing. Completely fine. Because nothing can really make them whole. And things, people, associations cannot increase or decrease their value. Unlike us, if we have certain material things or belong to certain organizations, we feel so great. And if we don't, we feel so low. Jivan Mukta doesn't have all that. Completely at peace. And therefore, the scriptures say, strive for the purity of mind so that we can begin to realize this knowledge and actually live this blissful life. Live this divine life here and now. What if I don't make it? What if I don't reach that enlightenment? It's okay. Every step is worthwhile. And every step will carry on. It's called long-term investment. Our long-term investment in Vedanta is to invest in our karma. Invest in our karma because that carries over. It's not a 5-year maturity or 10-year maturity. It's next life it carries over. It's a great investment. How do we purify? 6 ways. We saw 1, which is austerity. And particularly we saw the austerity of the body. Okay. So we will stop here. Anybody have any questions? Or things you want to share? Yes, Neha. Yeah.
I have a question, but if anybody needs a book, we do have 3 available.
Okay. Great. So there we have some books available if you need a book. Yeah? And you had a question also? Or just that book?
That's it.
That's it. Okay. All right. Anybody else have? Yes?
I don't know how to project my voice, but I'll try.
Can you see, is that mic available?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. And tell us your name also so we can get to know you.
Hi, my name is Jitu. How do you like when we started talking, we were talking about, this idea that we want, like, we are naturally trying to strive to be better or be someone else a lot of times, and then reconciling that with the, with this idea of Jivan Mukta. Sometimes it can feel like then I have to become this very equanimous person, and then what if I then no longer want to strive for these other things? I know it's just like a contradiction that I always had.
Right. So see, it is not that a Jivan Mukta doesn't do anything again in this world. Okay? So let us say somebody is liberated while living. Okay? And let us say they're learning a new skill. They also learn new skills, right? Let us say they're an artist and they're learning to perfect their art. They're still learning. But it is a kind of learning without any tension. When we strive in the world to become better, we have so much tension. I have to become like this. And if I don't become like this, I'm so bogged down. And if then someone is better than me and rising and I'm not, then I'm so affected. I'm so annoyed. Because it just makes us feel so much because our happiness relies on that. You see? But a Jivan Mukta, first of all, they're just being. But as I said, in practical life, if they're taking up an art, or they're taking up an art, let us say they're taking up learning how to sing. Guruji learns how to sing. So he'll also practice, he'll also become better at that. But his is not that, oh my gosh, I need to become like this famous person or like that famous person. I'll do what I can, and whatever happens, it's okay. So it is that kind of living without that tension or that stress. Yeah. Yes, can you pass the mic? Gitu behind you.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that, right? Like, one of the things that I constantly struggle with and that comes to my mind is nishkam karma. Phal karo par phal ki ichha, karam karo par phal ki ichha na karo. So you keep doing, you do it with perfection, but then, the detachment, which is very hard, of course. Constant struggle with me. But that's another lens I have.
Yeah, correct. See, with nishkama karma, what we don't realize, you see, is that the result is in the action. No need to wait for anything else. Huh? The very thing of nishkama karma is in the action itself, we're completely fulfilled. If we're going to wait for some result, then we're going to be very shaky and tense and stressed and, up and down. But if we're very clear that this is nishkama karma, in the action itself is the result, then finished, done. Then whatever else comes, it's a bonus. Okay, one more there. Yeah. Nope.
I can't get up quickly enough. So, as I'm hearing this, and I kind of reflect, like we tell our children, do your best, right? And then in saying that and thinking about it, that in acting, we have to strive to do our best and kind of get out of our own minds. I can't speak as eloquently as, but like get out of our own minds that, is it good enough? I think with the purity of intent, it will be good enough and it will be your best. And I think that's like, for me, one of the things that I'm trying to take away and put into practice, because then it sort of takes that internal turmoil, that insecurity, that striving for results and things like that out of it. So just sharing, I'm not there, but I think this is something I need to, is this the point? Is this kind of like that concept a little bit, or am I totally
This is the stepping stone. No, this is a stepping stone to the concept. You see, many people ask, how do I know if I've done my best? If you lose yourself in the action, you've done your best. Because that means the ego wasn't there. Whenever the ego is there, it's not the best. When the painter loses themselves in the painting, and the writer loses themselves in the writing, the singer loses themselves in the song, that is the best. If we don't lose ourselves, that's not the best. That's not the best. Yeah. Yes.
Jivan Mukta, from a Jivan Mukta's eyes, from a Jivan Mukta's eyes or the mind, how do you think this person is seeing, let us say, the war right now? Let us say the Israeli war right now. There is a lot of chaos. There is no way something can ever settle in this, right? From a Jivan Mukta's mind, who has power, who has the position, that person can do something, how would he look at it and how would he deal with this?
You have to ask him.
Because we are not there.
Because we're not there. But a Jivan Mukta, you see, there are so many things happening in the world, correct? That is the nature of the world. The world will go through its ups and downs. It is dunya, as I said. It will go through ups and downs. Now, if they are in the field where they can do something about it and they will want to do something about it, they will. But let us say if they're in a very high state of mind where they just want to be within themselves and sit quietly, they will do that as well. They will act as per their temperament, as per their nature. So if you will ask like a Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi ji, he will sit quietly because that's not his field, that's not his nature. But if you ask somebody who's maybe a little bit more dynamic in the world, then they will do something and partake in it. So as per their nature, they will act.
I think they are also seeing this as just an imagination, like this whole world is more like a drama happening in front of your eyes.
That's from a very deep level, from a very deep level. Yeah. When I was reading, one magazine, and it said something so beautiful, that nothing wrong happens in the world of Ishvara. Meaning, this is from the highest standpoint. We're not able to see it because we think we see it with so much war and conflict and so many things happening. But from the highest standpoint, it said in that particular paper, nothing goes wrong in the world of Ishvara. So again, I'm speaking that from the highest standpoint. Okay. Should we stop here? Any last question? Yeah?
So you mentioned that parents, if your kid is playing, you're not really involved. I think we are super involved, I would say, most of the times. My daughter has a test, I'm more involved in her test. When I think about, you said there's a time, now she's in primary, then she'll be in middle, then she'll go to high school, then marriage, then when will this time come then?
But that depends on you, na. You have to let go.
How?
See, we can only let go when we have something higher to hold on to, right? So when we get more rooted in the teachings, when we get more rooted in that, then it's easier for us to let go. See, there's a difference between being there, that love and attachment with the child. With that love, there is that space that one gives the child. But with attachment, there's always my child has to do it this way and it has to be there. So we have to learn that difference between the two. Perhaps we can take it up a little later in the text. Yeah? Okay, we'll say the closing prayer. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamedavashi